Radio Forest Podcast.
Hi, it's Fortune.
Fortune Feimster, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Were you here with Bert's Fully Loaded tour? I was just trying to look that up in Boise.
No, I did his Fully Loaded tour, but not in Boise.
Yeah, that's what I thought, right? But how were those shows in the cities that you hit up with those guys? That seemed like just like a big party, fun hangout time.
Oh, yeah, it was so fun. I mean, Bert never does anything, chill. It's always big and over the top. So, my tour is so low-key. It's just me and my opener, but that was like a whole party coming into a city. There were these huge arenas, and everybody was so pumped and just having a good time. I got so many emails from doing that tour.
Your Live, Laugh, Love comedy tour is coming to Boise this weekend, Sunday at the Morrison Center.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good-sized venue for comedy. Congratulations to you. And you've got two.
Oh, thank you.
You've got two specials on Netflix. A lot of comedians these days like, I'm just going to put it on YouTube. And I wonder if that's because they didn't get that Netflix offer. So to have two and to sell tickets for the Morrison Center, that's fantastic, Fortune.
I mean, everybody, has a different way of doing things. Some people like to go that more independent route. I do a lot of work with Netflix. I'm an actor, so I've been in a lot of their shows. I also do a radio show with Tom Papa for Netflix. At this point, I feel like I'm part of that world, so it's really cool that they've given me these two specials, and it's awesome because it's got a worldwide reach. I never thought in a million years that I would, have someone coming up to me from like Kuwait or Ukraine telling me they've seen my work. It's pretty trippy.
In the show for Netflix, Fubar with Schwarzenegger, I mean, obviously you guys are getting along great on set. I've seen some bloopers, behind the scenes stuff. How was his attitude? I get the impression he used to have a house here in Idaho. Maybe he still does. But I know people that have ran into him, and they said that he's the kind of celebrity that you want. He gives you attention. He makes jokes. He focuses on you. Did you find that to be true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he's such a unique person, and that, how many people have been at the top of their game in so many different fields, bodybuilding and then acting and then the governor. So he definitely is not like your typical celebrity. He knows the weight that he carries, but in a very humble way, and also in a way that's real. Like, he's like, I know this person wants to take pictures of me, so I'm going to take this time to be present and, smile and connect with them. It's really cool to watch, because someone at his level oftentimes, might just not take that very seriously or try to avoid people, but he loves meeting people and is just so gracious with everyone. And my dad has been in the hospital. He just had open heart surgery, and Arnold was like, I want to talk to your dad. So he FaceTimed my dad, like, in the hospital yesterday, and was just like giving him motivation. And because Arnold went through a heart surgery as well at one point, and he was giving him tips. And I was like, I mean, this guy does not have to do things like that, and he does.
So is your dad, is he awake? I had heard what had happened. He went in for surgery, right? And he hasn't, how do you word this? He hasn't regained consciousness? Or is your dad awake and moving around now?
He's awake, yeah. He was on a ventilator. He had open heart surgery and then was on a ventilator for 4 days because they couldn't get his blood pressure stable. But luckily, he woke up from that last week, and it was a little touch and go, but he seems to be on the other end of the scary part. So Arnold was trying to give him tips about, how to get back on his feet and the importance of, like, things he needs to do in order to get out of there. And so, it meant a lot. It meant a lot to my dad. It meant a lot to my family that someone like him would want to take the time to do that. But my dad's always been a part of my life. He's just more of a simple guy. He's like a Southern guy who doesn't like to talk about feelings. So, I talk about in my different specials, like, stories about coming out to him and things like that, and how he tried to handle it in a way that was true to him, but it showed acceptance, but, like, also showed that he didn't know what the heck he was talking about. I'd come out to him and he goes, you want me to buy you a men's blazer or a top hat?
What was the vibe at the time for coming out? Was that a hard thing for the climate? I mean, 2023 is a lot different. You're also in a smaller town in North Carolina. So did it carry a lot of weight and a lot of fear, or was it just like, this escalator is moving and there's no other way?
scary at any time. Even now it's hard because you don't know how your family's going to react, and there is that part of you that fears that you're going to be, that they're going to not want to have anything to do with you. And that's a fear because that's the reality for a lot of people. It's better than it used to be, but I've met a number of people who, especially people around my age, a little bit older, who said that their parents still don't talk to them to this day, 20 years later. And that's so sad to me. It's so heartbreaking because I know based on my experience that it's not a choice. This is who I am. For me, I'm lucky that my parents accepted me, but for me, there was no option. Being who I am had to far outweigh that because I was never happier than after I came out. It was so freeing. It was such a weight lifted off my shoulders that if my parents wanted me to be miserable and unhappy just so that they could accept me, I mean, that's not love.
How was meeting Jax's family, your wife's family, then?
Well, Jax, she comes from a conservative area of Michigan, and so, it was a journey for her as well. And luckily, her parents are very accepting, and Jax came out at 15, which I can't even imagine having that sort of knowledge,
Yeah.
About yourself and self-awareness at that age. I was so awkward and had no idea about anything. So they had some runway there to get used to that, and she had some long-term relationships, and they were always really good to those exes. So I was lucky that when we started dating that they were really loving and wonderful. Their biggest thing was I lived in California and she lived in Chicago, so they were like, please don't take her away from Chicago. I was like, I can't promise that. But
your 1 hour special on Netflix, you kind of talk about her exes. Did you have to clear that with her? Was it like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this on stage? Or did you just kind of slowly get into it on stage and like, yeah, there's how many cops are there in my wife's? So that's got to be at least a discussion on some sort of level at some point.
Oh, for sure. Well, she's the executive producer on both specials, so she knows all the material that I'm doing. So she was very aware of it. I mean, when I first told her the joke, she laughed because it's kind of a running joke with us. Every time I go to Chicago, I'm like, oh my gosh, how many lady cops did you date? This is crazy. We keep running into people. And so when I was writing that joke, I was like, I got to put this in here. And I asked her, I said, are you okay with it? I obviously changed everybody's name. And it's not one specific person. It's kind of just like
about people,
grouping. Yeah, it's just about people in general. So she knew because I wasn't like thinking or talking about one specific person that it was totally fine. She thought it was funny.
I'm super impressed. I heard that you were kind of still playing soccer, and that's kind of how you got your wife to move with you. Are you still playing? Have you played since you were a kid?
I mean, unfortunately, the pandemic took a toll on many things, and soccer was one of them. It totally just stopped that league in its tracks. But from 2005 until the pandemic, I played soccer every Monday night in a league, and I was always like telling everyone on my team, like, no, do not ever schedule anything on Monday nights. That's like my night thing that I want to have for myself, and I look forward to it like every week. I played soccer growing up, and then I played my senior year of college, where I just had not played for a while, and I was like, I'm gonna play on the college soccer team.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's just a sport I always loved and always just kind of was in my bones. But after the pandemic hit and the league sort of fizzled, Jax was like, I think we're reaching the age now where it's time to hang up the cleats. I'm like, no. I mean, her thing was like, I had a very close call right before I filmed this movie where I like pulled my hamstring and I was limping like literally up until the morning I was about to shoot.
Oh, you could lose you could lose a movie.
Yeah. And so she was like, do you think this is a good idea? And I kept playing for a while, kind of fighting it. But then once the pandemic hit, I was like, all right, I'll stop. Missed it.
Fortune, have you heard back from Chili's or Hooters? Have they reached out to you and given you some swag or said, come on in anytime you want?
Yeah, both places have been great. People are always like, I wish I got free, whatever. I'm not doing anything for free, anything. Let me just clarify that. I just happened to talk about Chili's and Hooters in my Sweet and Salty special. So Chili's is always like sending me fun swag. Like I got jean jackets with Chili's on it or like funny glasses. So they're always been cool. And Hooters sent me a card for like free chicken wings. You know, my special came out and then the pandemic hit and they sent it to my agency and no one at my agency went into work for like a year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So by the time they got back to the office, it had expired. But it was the thought that counts.
Yeah.
And also, I don't need to be eating a bunch of chicken wings, especially if I'm not playing soccer right now.
Well, it's Fortune Feimster. She's in Boise this weekend, Sunday at the Morrison Center with the Live, Laugh, Love comedy tour. She's got Fubar on Netflix with Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's a video of her working out with him on YouTube. You can watch that. She's worked with David Spade a couple times, been in a ton of movies. The 1 hour special, Good Fortune's on Netflix. She's got another special on Netflix, voice work for The Simpsons. I mean, you've got a podcast, too. I forgot to mention Handsome. You've got the podcast. Handsome. You've got the...
Good looking work, too.
Yeah, and you've also got the radio show with Tom Papa. You're just as busy as you can be. Fortune Feimster.
That's crazy.
Congratulations on all your success. We'll see you Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in today.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to get up to Boise.